When most gardeners see weeds popping up in their garden beds, the first instinct is usually to yank them out and toss them into the compost pile. But what if I told you that some of these so-called weeds are actually nature's way of improving your soil, and better yet, they're a magnet for earthworms? That's right, these 6 common weeds, often overlooked or even despised, are actually earthworm factories working silently to heal and enrich your soil. Once you learn to identify and manage them properly, you'll never look at them the same way again. Let's start with a simple truth. Earthworms love decaying plant matter, especially soft, nutrient-rich roots and leaves. They're drawn to certain types of plants because of their moisture content, root exudates, and the beneficial fungi that grow around them. Some of the most effective worm-friendly plants are, surprisingly, wild weeds. These plants have evolved to grow in even the poorest soils, and they bring earthworms with them, which means your soil starts improving almost by accident. The first plant on our list is dandelion. Yes, that cheerful yellow flower you see everywhere is one of the best allies your soil can have. Dandelions have deep taproots that break up compacted soil, allowing air and water to penetrate. As the leaves and roots decay, they create organic matter that earthworms feed on. Plus, the decaying root channels are perfect for worms to move through. Let dandelions grow in moderation in your beds or around the edges, and you'll start seeing an uptick in worm activity. Next up is plantain, not the banana, but the flat, leafy weed you'll often find hugging the ground. Broadleaf plantain is a low-growing plant that stabilizes topsoil and adds bulk organic matter when its leaves die back. When you leave plantain in place and allow the foliage to break down, you create a micro-habitat that worms love. It's also antifungal and draws in beneficial bacteria, creating a living buffet for soil life. The third powerful plant is chickweed. Chickweed grows in cool, moist areas and acts like a natural mulch. Its shallow roots help prevent erosion and lock in moisture, creating the perfect humid environment worms prefer. When chickweed is chopped and dropped, or allowed to die back naturally, it decomposes quickly, attracting worms to the site almost immediately. In winter and spring gardens, chickweed is an unsung hero. Fourth on the list is nettle. Stinging nettle gets a bad rap, but it's actually a rich source of nitrogen and trace minerals. It builds humus quickly when chopped and left to compost in place. Earthworms are incredibly drawn to areas where nettle has been growing, not just for the decomposing plant material, but also for the beneficial microorganisms that thrive in its presence. If you can tolerate nettle in a controlled area, your soil will thank you. Number 5 is lamb's quarters. This fast-growing weed is like a dynamic accumulator. It draws up minerals from deep in the soil and stores them in its leaves. When you chop it down and leave it as mulch, you're creating a mineral-rich layer of organic matter that worms can't resist. Many gardeners are shocked to find dense worm populations around where lamb's quarters have grown, even in previously poor soil. Last but not least is purslane. This juicy, low-growing succulent often invades garden beds in summer. It's not just edible for humans, it's also a moisture-rich treat for worms. Purslane decomposes into a slick, nutrient-dense material that becomes worm food fast. Because it grows so quickly, you can harvest, chop, and drop it multiple times in a season, essentially feeding your worm population like clockwork. Now you might be wondering, does this mean you should let your garden go wild with weeds? Not exactly. The key is to observe and selectively encourage these beneficial weeds while keeping invasive ones in check. You can interplant them strategically, use them in borders, or grow them in composting zones. By managing them with intention, you're turning weeds into a free source of worm food, soil aeration, and nutrient cycling. In my own garden, I've seen worm populations triple in just one season by allowing a small patch of chickweed and dandelion to thrive. The soil became looser, richer, and more alive. It's an incredible feeling to dig into a garden bed and find it teeming with worms, especially when you know they're there because of plants you used to pull out without a second thought. So the next time you see one of these 6 weeds growing in your garden, pause before reaching for the hoe. You just might be looking at your soil's best friend. By welcoming these earthworm-attracting plants into your garden with care, you'll create a more balanced, fertile, and naturally thriving growing space, without spending a dime on fertilizer or soil amendments.